David Brewster here with another episode of Chordplay, and this is the Chords of Jake E. And I recently did a Jake E. 3-for-all, and then I had an outpour of views and comments, and thank you for the Jake E. attention on that 3-for-all. And then I had requests for a Jake E. chordplay, and then I did a Randy Rhoads chordplay, and then had requests for a Randy Rhoads 3-for-all. So we've recently kind of hit two of the big guitarists in Ozzy's band, Randy Rhoads and Jake E. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about Jake. I did talk about his career a little bit and kind of hit some highlights in the 3-for-all. So I have a lot I'm going to cover in this lesson, and I want to thank you for your requests, because this lesson is a direct result from your requests, and some majority rules around here. So whatever I hear the most requests about, or if a group of people kind of ask for the same thing, then I'll definitely make that lesson. If I have one stray request, for something, I may not pursue that, and no offense, if you requested something and you don't really see it pop up in the material. Chord-wise, I kind of have a stronger pull, especially around the Badlands period. I have a stronger pull toward Jimmy Page, There were some acoustic pieces on the Badlands album, acoustic intros, this kind of swampy blues kind of sound. And I really like that sound. I think he caters and plays that style and that tonality really well. I like that. But I do hear a lot of Jimmy Page, like in the voicings, not so much, the way it was played necessarily, just the chords themselves. The first example's from Winter's Call from the Badlands album. And this definitely is kind of revealing some of that swampy, bluesy, kind of mellow playing that comes from Jake. And he's really just flirting around with a partial G5 and then a partial G7, and he's just arpeggiating those chords. So it's really just the open G, 3rd fret on the B and the high E, and then it flips to where you have the 1st fret on the high E to get that kind of G7 flavor. Definitely hear that kind of swampy bluesy sound just in that little 2-chord exchange. And then you can definitely hear the Jimmy Page kind of influence in the next part. If you want to hear a clear version of that, it's like a C sus2 and then a G over B and then a B flat 6. That little 3-chord progression, and you can hear that in Over the Hills and Far Away, kind of a different version, but that same kind of idea, kind of targeting and walking down to that B flat. And now for a slight variation of what we just looked at in Winter's Call. This is from Jade's Song, which is also on the Badlands album. And if memory serves correct, I think Jade's Song is first, like in the track listing, and then you hear Winter's Call. But this one is just kind of a slight variation. So now we're going to start with the same G5, but then now he's playing with a G major 7. So now he's grabbing F sharp instead of that F we had in Winter's Call, like that. And then you'll hear a sus. It's like I guess like a G6. So not a sus. So there's G5, G major 7, and G6. But then after that part, that little section, then basically you're going to relocate to where you have a C on the B string. And then we're going to have this kind of assortment of sus4 chords. So that would be like a G sus4, and that would be a G major 7 sus4, and then a G6 sus4. So it's a slight variation of that first chord. With this G sus4 over D, he just kind of like grabs that chord, and he keeps that melodic arpeggio pattern going, but then he starts he introduces this like G to A melodic kind of slide, and then on the 2nd chord he reverses it, A to G. So now he's doing this. sliding part that he introduced. Then he basically does this legato move into G, like that. And then he's got a G5. And then it's G major 7, like a G major 7 over D, something like that. And then it's an F sharp 11. And I really like that sequence. And he's definitely a big fan of those kind of, you know, haunting, kind of, you know, gothic sounding chords like that, you know, very mysterious flavor. The next example comes from Double Stomp, which we're still, you know, kind of stuck in Badlands, but that's okay because that Badlands album is awesome. But he's doing this really interesting kind of slid E maneuver, and you know, with a lot of my students over the years, we've definitely explored, you know, kind of moving that E major, you know, fingering or that shape from that chord. But here he's kind of created this swampy blues, you know, kind of sound, which is really cool. So there's an E. That would be what, an F sharp add 11 over C sharp, and then a G over D, and then an A add 9 over E. You know, and so we're finding these really funky chords just by moving, you know, that E major triad fingering to here, to here, and you'll hear tons of songs out there that use these chords. So he's doing this kind of finger style slid chord pattern. That climbing sound it has, you know, and it's a little tricky, you know, to kind of get the finger style picking pattern and that chord shift, you know, kind of happening at the same time. I like that sequence of chords. But really, Killer of Giants is amazing, and I know I recently noticed a article online where Jake was saying, you know, that was one of his, you know, highlights of his career. He was kind of mentioning, you know, these different riffs and songs that were important, or he felt were important. And he mentioned that one. I believe that was actually on Guitar Player's website. But yeah, he was kind of talking about some of the songs, of course, Bark at the Moon and some of those. And this song came up. And so here's a clip of me kind of playing through the intro of Killer of Giants. I honestly haven't really explored this that far, but I just wanted to share the basic idea just to be thorough here. So to start, we're going to actually bar the note E here with your thumb on the 7th fret on the A string. And then your pinky or your third finger is going to come up and just bar the 12th fret there on the high E, B, and G strings. And that would basically function like an E minor chord. And then you could change the notes around too. So that would be like an E sus2 sus4. guess that would kind of be like E major, even though it's a little wonky. There we go. So that's a very difficult technique, very unusual, and I can feel like a little ping of strain right there because I'm not really, used to doing that. I don't normally play like that. But like I said, I wanted to show it just to kind of be thorough here with Jake's chords. The next example comes from the song Seasons, which, we're back in the Badlands album again. And I really like this chord progression. It has this very mysterious, different flavor. And I'm honestly not really sure. I know I'm playing a lot of this lesson, fingerstyle. And sometimes when I'm hearing Jake play some of these kind of delicate chords and intros and these kind of softer sounds, it sounds like he's using his fingers. I don't really hear a prominent pluck, like with a pick. So for the first chord, it's very unusual. It's like an A sus2 over E, but you hear the A note, and then he plays the E. And then right there, he's got a B, on the D string. He's got the open B, and then a B on the high E string. And the reason I'm calling that an A sus2 is the cycle of chords kind of revolves and lives based around that open A. So even though you might think of, calling that a different chord, in the grand scheme of things, it kind of fits in this A world, if you kind of think of it that way. Now the next chord is going to be an A augmented sus2, and that's going to be right here, which is a really cool chord, A augmented sus2. And he answers that with an A6 sus2. There you got the 4th fret on the D and the G, the open B, and the 2nd fret on the high E with the open A. Really cool chord. And then it's an A sus2 flat 13. So you've got this little so as promised, the last example here is from the new Red Dragon Cartel album, Patina, that one. And this is from the song A Painted Heart. And, it's really exciting to hear Jake, back in action. And, the album sounds great. I like a lot of the songs and the textures going on. And in typical kind of Dave Brewster fashion, I heard the album and I immediately, I wasn't skipping through the songs, but I was kind of skimming through trying to find something that I wanted to use in this Chordplay episode. And as soon as I heard this song, I thought that's perfect. It's the haunting, kind of dreamy, unusual chords that Jake's kind of known for. And here he is, doing it in a brand new song, which is great. It starts off with a A11. And if you want to think of, how that looks or feels, it does kind of feel like the bottom part of a G chord up, 2 frets, but we've got the open D string, and we're going to fret that without the index finger. So there I'm using my 3rd finger in the middle, and I'm mainly playing it that way so we can use the index finger to grab this G that follows it. So there's the A11, and then it moves to a G5 sharp 11 like this. So you're doing this little 2 chord exchange. To a really unusual chord, a G add 9, but it's fingered this way, which is not very common. But I do like that sound. And then it goes to an F6. But I really like that 4 chord progression. Going to wrap up this episode of Chordplay, looking at some of the chords and songs and textures of Jake E. Lee. And be sure to leave some comments and feedback, and please subscribe to Late Night Lessons, and I'll be back with some more Chordplay and 3 for All and some new content very soon. Thank you.